Today, I am going to discuss Singapore politics. I like Singapore. It's a small city-state of 5 million. If I needed to get surgery or complicated medical procedure, I'd go there. Indonesia has appalling healthcare. I'd go to Singapore for proper healthcare. Clean and orderly streets, no littering or vandalism is permitted unless, and if it happens, you get your smacked down with a heavy fine or a lashing. So, congrats on keeping your city clean and beautiful and sleek. Lee Kuan Yew, before I begin my criticisms of him, I must tell you that he is an economic genius. He is single-handedly responsible for the economic miracle that is Singapore. Don't ask me the nuances of how he did it, but I think it's by, when he took control of the country, by encouraging investment, being the most capitalist-friendly country in the world, because it was a country with no natural resources, and he encouraged investment and to the country by being capitalist-friendly, and did not tolerate any form of corruption. And another, well, I guess I need to correct myself a little bit here. The work ethic of the Singaporean people, the workforce, the people of Singapore are responsible for their own economic miracle, considering that you have no natural resources. So why do companies invest there? Because of disciplined, hardworking people. I'm not an economist, so I honestly don't know, except for a few simple things like making sure there's no corruption and encouraging investment, being capitalist friendly. So Lee Kuan Yew is an economic genius, despite his questionable record on democracy. Now, before I begin describing the ruling party's style of governance, Singapore has been ruled since, I believe it was 1959, by the PAP, the People's Action Party. It's been a one-party dominant state since independence and since self-governance. Before I get into their style of governance, I will describe how elections are conducted in Singapore. Now, elections in Singapore are far from democratic. In fact, it's one of the least democratic systems out there. First of all, the Electoral Commission, the organization in charge of running the elections, is controlled by the Prime Minister, by the Prime Minister's office. That is outrageous and unacceptable in other countries. How could the Prime Minister be in charge personally of redrawing the boundaries of electoral districts and so on? It's outrageous. It's so politically one-sided and unfair. Then their electoral system is basically a system of first past the post. Never mind that I don't like first past the post. they make it even more unappealing by introducing something called a GRC, a Group Representation Constituency, where somebody has to cast their vote for a single vote for up to 6 people, sometimes 5, sometimes 4. You cast a single vote for 6 people in these large districts called GRCs. And each individual member of that GRC is responsible for being an MP for certain areas in that GRC. Now, I consider that horrible because it takes away the appeal of first past the post in the first place, of having a constituency link, of that you are answerable to your constituents. Because people from other parts of the constituency are also voting for who's going to represent you. People for other constituencies are voting for who's going to represent you. It takes away the constituency link. You're voting for 5 people. When in reality you should be voting for 1 person. People from other constituencies are also dictating who will represent you. It takes away the constituency link, which is the appeal of first past the post. The reason for the GRC system in the first place is so that it ensures minority representation in Parliament. The GRC rule is there must be at least 1 non-Chinese candidate, so that there is minority representation in Parliament, because the majority of Singaporeans are Chinese. Now, that's well-intentioned, and I understand that. But they use the GRC system as an excuse to be in power continuously. The PAP are using the GRC system, so if there's one, for example, one popular minister, all their other colleagues can get voted in because of the popularity of that one candidate. And they're using it to marginalize opposition, basically. So the GRC system, they're using minority representation as an excuse to why they keep this system up so they can stay in power. Because in the 1980s, when the first opposition MP was elected, the PAP figured out this scheme in order to keep them in power, in order to keep the opposition from gaining any ground. Now, then there is the appointed members. Now, Singapore is not the only country guilty of this. Several countries in Africa are. The United Kingdom is, with its House of Lords. They've got this scheme called the Nominated Member of Parliament. MPs who are not voted in, but appointed, as well as the non-constituency Member of Parliament, which is the losing candidate who won by the highest percent, the losing candidates of the party that's not going to form government, parties that are not going to form government, but they won the most votes out of all the losing candidates to become MPs. Now, nominated members of Parliament and non-constituency members of Parliament have less powers than the official MPs granted. However, they don't have a mandate from the voters. But to be fair to Singapore, like I said, I have to emphasize that Even the United Kingdom is guilty of this with appointed members, the House of Lords. So, I'm critical of that, but they're not the only guilty party. Now, I'm going to discuss now the PAP style of governance, but in part 2, because there's so much room to cover, I cannot fill it in only 15 minutes. So, see you in video number 2.